Hey guys, Rob back here on the second lap, the off-grid tiny house. So, if you guys have been watching me for any length of time, you know I'm really struggling to find property that I'm able to buy and own for the off-grid tiny house. And I'm getting to the point where, you know what, I don't think it's ever going to happen. So, I've been thinking on some ideas here, guys, and I'm going to put them out there for you. Since I'm pretty frustrated in having no go finding land for the tiny house, there is a strip of land, a very narrow strip beside my parents' house in town. Now, the surveyors were by and did a bunch of stuff and put their little pegs in the ground and all that. And they're going to be building up beside us. And if they do not use that strip of grass, because we're not 100% sure that it's our property, though I'm pretty confident it is because of where they marked their pegs out. So if that's the case, that means that property there, we already own it. I already own it, and it is big enough to actually fit the tiny house on it, except the city would have a huge issue with the transport trailer next to residential house. So I'm thinking, guys, and a lot of you probably won't like this, and maybe some of you will, that I restart the off-grid tiny house. Now this is going to depend on a lot of factors, including the majority of money and all that. It's just something I'm going to put out here. Okay, so if let's say magically someone buys the off-grid tiny house from me, I don't expect to get a lot for it, but I would include everything that I've done, but I would hold on to the solar panels, wind turbine, and MPPT charge controller and inverters that I do not have installed at the tiny house at this point in time, and include the 4 solar panels, which is 400 watts, and the 2 battery banks that are currently at the tiny house. And everything else there, you know, within reason. I'm going to keep the power packs and, you know, my other stuff. But if I'm able to sell the tiny house, which I'm still iffy on that, who's going to want to buy it, etc., and how much. But for this video's sake, let's say I'm able to sell it. And what I would do with that money, guys, is I would restart from scratch the off-grid tiny house. And now that I have built one and found what's the best methods and the mistakes I made, and you know, the cost savings and stuff, I would buy what they call a gooseneck trailer, which is a flatbed trailer that I could build on. And it's the nice thing about the gooseneck trailer is I can move it with a vehicle a lot easier than using a transport trailer. Though the downside is I'm going to lose a ton of space, but that's fine, especially now that things are getting tight money-wise, etc. And The gooseneck trailer will allow me to finish building a proper tiny house the way I wanted to from the start. But I didn't go that route because it was expensive at the time. I bought the tiny house, including the 2 IBC totes, for like $2,000. And I think a gooseneck trailer brand new is like $30,000, so more than even my tiny house at this point. So if I'm able to get possibly a used or lightly used gooseneck trailer, though I would want new myself, and then I'd have them deliver it next to my parents' house on that strip of land that I was talking about. The city can't say anything whatsoever because it would be totally legal in the city limits, and I can still build a tiny house on top of it and they can't say anything. Ha ha, government. And the nice thing about the gooseneck trailer, guys, I can, restart the build from scratch. I can incorporate all the things that I missed, like the height limit. I think I would only make it maybe 11 foot tall and have a slight taper from one end to the other, basically a flat roof, and have all my solar panels up there, rain catchment, gutters, etc., etc. Have everything that I wanted from day one, though it will cost me more money, but it will be a lot. I've learned a lot from the off-grid tiny house, and I don't know what's going to happen with my dad and the cancer thing and everything else, and work. And I know I talk about work and cry and whine about money right now, but it's tight, guys. Like, Canada is in the hurt locker for making money. Government is crap here. I don't know what it's like in the States, but it's tough here, I'll tell you that. But that's my plan, guys. So what do you think? Tell me what you think I should do. Maybe you guys have a lead on bringing me up a lightly used gooseneck trailer all the way from the US up here delivered. Who knows? And then I can get to work fresh on the project next to the house. And the other thing I wanted to mention about that is, if God forbid something happens to my dad, my family, they already told me I'm inheriting the house, but what I would do is live full-time in the tiny house right next door to the house, literally next door, and rent out the house to have an income. And I would also still have my name at that address, because obviously I'm going to be right there, just in the tiny house, and get all my mail and bills and packages and stuff through that. And I think that's the way to go, guys. But I still would need to keep my dad's transport trailer where the tiny house is, obviously for work, and also the garage for work. So they would be isolated to only use of the house, and I could maybe have a lawyer or something do some kind of thing up where the garage is where I live in the house and the rest is rented out, something like that. And then I have to do the maintenance for the house, obviously, keep everything nice and neat, and hopefully get good tenants that don't wreck the place. But I think that would work out, guys. And then if I had to, let's say, since I'm downsizing, depending on the batteries and the setup I have in the new tiny house, I may I may need to run sometimes maybe an extension cord from the house to the tiny house in case of emergency, or you know, I need to run like a window air conditioner or something like that. Though it would have to be very close, short extension cord, heavy gauge, obviously. And that way I'd be almost off grid, depending on how everything goes, right guys? Let's say I get some lithium batteries, then I won't have to worry about that, because then I could run an air conditioner, no problem. No ifs, ands, or buts. So what do you guys think of that plan? And you know, there's going to be a lot of factors involved if that ever, you know, to get that going. But that is a backup plan if worse comes to worse. Because I don't know how things are going to go here. Things are tough. So we'll see you guys on the next one.